In my spare time, I like to study business models for fun. Today's topic is the anatomy of a business model simplified, nonlinear versus linear. As a part-time complexity scientist, I like to study different types of ecosystems, and of course nature is always looked as a nonlinear ecosystem. And you can learn a lot from just studying nature and applying it to startups, entrepreneurships, and business overall. One of the things that you can look at is you can also look at humans as a part of a nonlinear behavior model. And of course, sometimes they're predictable, a lot of times they're unpredictable. But if you look at your business model and you're trying to make it into rocket science, I'm going to try to make it really simple for you. Look at it simply from a nonlinear versus linear model. So let me give you some examples. The games industry, the online gaming industry, is become a nonlinear model. And if you look at the content form of games versus, for instance, Hollywood film form. So Hollywood stories are linear in nature. You know, you have a story, beginning, middle, and end. In gaming, you obviously can go from one point to another and go in all kinds of different modes, paths and journeys. And so from that perspective, the games are not much more nonlinear model than films from a product development perspective. And that's why, for instance, games have become very successful. In fact, gaming industry is much bigger industry than the film production industry that Hollywood produces every year. Another way you can look at it is like social media. The reason social media has become very successful, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and so on, is because it feeds into the nonlinear aspect of their value proposition. So obviously the value of those networks depends on the amount of people on the network. So by having a platform that enables nonlinear interactions, enables these companies like Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn to expand their market share in the social media sector. The third component of nonlinear model that I actually want to talk about a lot is the streaming media. So you've got the traditional broadcast networks and you've got the traditional, cable channels. And when you look at their programming, it's much more linear in nature, and they're changing, don't get me wrong, where they would put up shows at certain times and you could only see them at certain hour. Unless you unless you filmed it, you would not be able to go see them. Well, now you can with Hulu, but bottom line is that their programming in nature is much more linear than non-linear. Best example is Netflix. Netflix right now has 33 million users, and they made the process really simple for people to see anything they want, anytime, anywhere. And so when you look at the programming component of Netflix, it's much more nonlinear than the cable companies. And of course the cable companies are changing, but they've got the lead. So one of the things you can learn from that is that whatever you're doing, look at your model in terms of how can I make things nonlinear for my users or my buyers where they can get my product or service anytime, anywhere. And a perfect example of it is two original programming shows by Netflix, House of Cards and Arrested Development. And because I'm a big fan of those shows, I've already seen both of the series all the way through. And what they introduced was a concept of binge viewing, where literally when you get hooked on these shows, I'm going to warn you, watch them on Friday nights because you won't stop watching it, is that you're just going to continuously go through them. So the irony is that by providing a nonlinear business model, Netflix has enabled the viewer to see things in a linear way. Do you see the humor and irony of that? So in summary, look at your business model from a simple perspective. Look at it as, am I offering a nonlinear value proposition to my customers? If you are, you're ahead of the game.